So once again, formally, welcome to Sunday Morning Sitting Group, everybody. My name is Trudy. My title is Founding Teacher here at InsightLA, but honestly, I am first and foremost a practitioner and a student, along with you. That's really my deepest joy, actually. And so welcome to anybody who may be new this morning to InsightLA. And what we do here is we meditate together, which we will do in a few minutes. And then we have some teachings. And then we have a chance for some exchange and conversation with each other. So yeah, let's find a comfortable sitting posture. And I do some guidance during the meditation, especially on Zoom. It's more distracting because there we all are on the screen, and it's so tempting to peek, and you can see what everybody's doing in a way that you really can't when you're sitting, in a circle or in rows. And I mean, yeah, you can peek at each other, but it's a different view. We also get to see each other in our natural habitat here, which I really like. I'm in Los Angeles, where I've been, since about, since before my birthday, which was the beginning of the month. And I am seeing where some of you are from. So yeah, finding your sitting posture. I will do a little bit of guided meditation. We'll have lots of quiet as well. And enjoy this time of really getting to know yourself better. And that's why we have the quiet, by the way. It's because if there are constant meditation instructions or guidance, it's helpful in terms of when you get distracted to bring your attention back. But at the same time, you're always, again, oriented a little bit outside of yourself, listening to the instructions, seeing, am I doing it or not? Wondering, am I doing it right? Well, that comes up anyway, just because that's our human nature to wonder about that. But in the quiet, we get to know ourselves in a different way that is becoming increasingly rare in our ever-connected digital lives. So let's sit together. I'm looking for the bell, which I thought was here. We'll just have a different bell for the moment. Ding. Taking a deep breath in and releasing. And another one. Just relaxing into being here. One more time. Relaxing the neck. Do a few little neck rolls. Relaxing the shoulders by lifting them all the way up to the ears and then just letting them drop. You can do that again. There's lots of tension in the shoulders. Just lifting and dropping the shoulders. Relaxing the belly. Just letting the belly be soft and relaxed. And at the same time, we're sitting up straight in this posture of confidence, dignity, balance. And we're not moving around, not fidgeting, restless. Well, we may be restless, but we're not going to embody that restlessness by moving around. Just letting the body relax and be quiet. And aware that need to go right now. Nothing else needing to be done. But sitting up in the midst of experience, and if you happen to be lying down, relaxing in the midst of experience of simply being alive, simply being. Aware of the movement of the breath in the body, the rise and fall of the diaphragm in the belly, expansion and contraction of the rib cage. Aware of the sensations of the breath moving in and out of the body. And just as we feel the movement of the breath against this backdrop of the stillness of the body, we notice all the movements of the mind, of thinking, of feeling, emotions, against the backdrop of spacious awareness, loving awareness that can hold it all. And if you feel moved to add some loving kindness to your meditation this morning, please feel free to do that. If you're not so familiar with that practice, I'll do a bit of guiding. First, inviting you to evoke, call to mind a time when you felt just easy, relaxed, and good. It can be a time from any time in your life. The Buddha remembered a time of being underneath a rose apple tree while his parents were participating in a harvest festival, looking up at the tree, feeling safe in the world. And just resting, relaxing in that state of peace, contentment, ease, safety. And feeling what it's like in the body to be at ease, to feel safe, to be relaxed. Evoking that feeling of peace and contentment in this very moment, right here, right now. And you can drop in some gentle phrases. May I be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May I be safe. May I live with the ease of an open heart. May I be deeply peaceful. May I be well. May my heart be steady through the ups and downs of life. May I appreciate my life completely, just as it is. May I love myself completely, just the way I am. And just allowing that sense of relaxation and kindness to be felt in the body, radiating through the entire body. And extending past the boundary of the skin to just ripple out into the whole world. And when the mind wanders away into the past or future, just gently moving your body back ever so slightly, shifting back into this posture of receiving, of receptivity, receiving the moment, receiving the aliveness of right now, whatever's happening, receiving the flow of experience, the mind, the body, the heart. Ding. So when you're ready, taking your time, opening your eyes, sitting up if you can. Oh, thank you. I thought the bell was in here, but I can't see it anywhere. I keep looking underneath everything. Anyway, about, I think it was 30 years ago, maybe 33 years ago, a long time ago, I had the privilege of traveling to Korea with my first teacher, a Korean Zen master named Daesan Sanim. And it was a pilgrimage to visit Zen temples in Korea and some monasteries and nunneries. And because we were also, we were in Korea, we went to the National Museum one day, and there were many beautiful artifacts in the museum, but one that I remember so vividly because it was powerful and mysterious. And it was the Buddha Maitreya, an image of the Buddha Maitreya. And I don't know, Kemi, if you can find it. from the Korean museum, but it's an image where this Buddha is sitting on a chair, as many people do, and it is got, let's see if I can demonstrate. The elbow is on the knee. Wait, let me bring up my knee. There's my knee. So but it's the knee isn't up high, it's on a chair. And then it has this attitude like this, just resting the head kind of a little bit tipped on the hand in a sort of thoughtful pose. And there was something, it was very dark, probably bronze or something. And there was something mysterious for me about that statue, because Maitreya is considered to be the Buddha of the future. And the name Maitreya, it comes from Maitri, which is the Sanskrit word for metta, the Pali word for loving kindness. And so I love this because it seems to be the embodiment of this trust that the Buddha of the future, that it would be a Buddha of love. And we talk a lot about wisdom. We have figures in the Buddhist cosmology that represent wisdom. Manjushri holds up a sword, can cut through delusion, compassion, the figure of Avalokiteshvara, sometimes depicted with 10,000 arms and hands and an eye in the middle of each hand. That many arms and hands to help out in the world, and an eye to see where help is needed. And sometimes also pictured with 11 heads to look in the 10 directions, which are north, south, east, west, northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest, above, below, and then the 11th direction, I believe, is into our own hearts. I haven't read that, but it just makes sense to me. And so the head can look in all these directions and all these hands. So obviously this compassion can suffuse the world, and does when we can see clearly. But then there's this future Buddha, the Buddha of love. And I don't know why this Buddha has to be in the future, but I love what Thich Nhat Hanh says, that this future Buddha might not take the form of an individual human being like Shakyamuni Buddha, the historical Buddha, but it might take the form of a community that shows us how to grow our capacity to love each other, to love ourselves, and to hold the whole mandala, the whole circle of our various communities, to hold them in love and compassion. And this image, I think, is really important for me right now, and maybe for you too, because we're in a time of so much unrest and uncertainty still. I mean, who would have thought at the beginning of the pandemic that we would be here coming to the end of June, and the pandemic's still so much with us. And even though life, many things have reopened here in LA and maybe where you are too, it's people are still needing to wear masks and socially distant and wash the hands all the time and use sanitizer and all these weird things that keep us from hugging and touching and kissing. And I mean, it's one thing if you're older, it's a whole nother thing I see with the teenagers, and they're either ignoring it completely or pining away because they're in full bloom and have no one to love. I mean, it's really a hard time for some of them, the ones that really are being careful. And we know, or we learn in these teachings, that the basic condition for love is mindfulness. And sometimes we keep them separate. Like mindfulness is it's very clear. It's that clear flash of seeing before we add on all our thoughts about what we're seeing, just that clarity of seeing. But learning to be present means learning to make peace with the moment that we're in, so that we can actually be in it and bear to be in it. And it's difficult because we've been running around for millennia, and to learn to slow into experience and really encounter life in a more whole and complete and deep way, it takes conscious effort and pretty much lots of it. And we need to be supported by each other to do this. We really need a community. We need a Sangha to be able to do this. And then add in having lived through the public execution of an innocent man, and then that bringing to light to the whole world that which Black and brown people have always known, that they're profiled and targeted and their lives are at risk, with encounters with the police and others. And then living through all of the shakeup that I know so many organizations, including ours, is going through, of just having to really take a very honest look at the practices organizationally and structurally that we might have just taken for granted and done because those were the best practices, but best practices to serve whom? You know, that's what we're looking at right now. And it's important to take a look. It's important to be willing to change things. And, you know, and the Dharma is a way of calming down, relaxing, taking time to look deeply, having teachings that show us the way to be present with experience as it comes and goes and arises and passes away. And every time that we take a peaceful breath, every time that we come to a sitting group, every time that we are mindful when we're taking our daily walk, which I hope you all take, every time we do that, we are actually knowing and understanding that we are embodying these teachings. And we are entering that stream of Dharma practice. And don't think that stream entry, which the Buddha talked about, means some fancy remote state of mind that you may never attain. We're entering the stream of practice whenever we're mindful about ourselves and come back to this moment with the intention to learn and, again, grow our ability to be present, because how can we love things if we can't even bear to be present with them? It just makes sense, right? And I want to talk a little more about, you know, about the community and how we can help each other. And I love, Thich Nhat Hanh tells the story of a little boy who came to Plum Village, to their monastery in the south of France. His mother had brought him, and he didn't want to be there because there was no television. And he absolutely freaked out when he got there and found out there was no TV, and insisted on leaving and couldn't imagine being any place without TV, because that was his refuge. He didn't think he could survive one day without it. And so what they did was get him to agree to stay a half a day. And they brought these other kids to play with him. And then at lunchtime, he decided he would stay the rest of the day, and so on and so on. And he wound up staying for 2 weeks and discovering that actually he could survive and enjoy life actually without television. And that's the function of community. It's to support us when we don't believe we can, you know, go on another day without whatever it is, the loved one who just broke up with, or the drink that we're so used to having to kind of mellow our life, or whatever it might be that we are relying on in that way. But so the Sangha really, really helps us. And I know that for me, the community has been a source of inspiration and strength for me sitting in the teacher seat, because I'm really well trained actually as a psychotherapist. I'm well trained as a teacher. I'm okay as a teacher. I'm a really good therapist. I think I'm okay as a teacher. And yet, I'm not trained to run an organization or to manage people, or, you know, there are whole fields of expertise, fundraising, I mean, marketing, communications. I mean, there's all these categories of things that I'm not trained in at all. And since InsightLA was kind of started from scratch and very much by hand, um, I've had to struggle a lot with trying to navigate how do we have like an organization. I remember in the early years, people kept saying, well, this isn't really an organization. And I would think, well, why not? What is an organization? Well, I've learned since then what an organization is, but I haven't learned how to run one. So it's been really challenging over the years. And the community, the Sangha, which just is a word that means community. It originally meant the monastic community that had gathered around the Buddha. But now really that meaning extends to everyone who's practicing mindfulness and loving kindness. But you have, with your presence and with your interest in being happier and waking up to what's possible for the human heart in this life, that your presence and your eagerness to learn alongside me is what has kept me going all this time. And so I just want to offer a deep bow of gratitude, tremendous gratitude to you. And where there's love between teacher and student, and I really felt that love at the birthday celebration in such a powerful way. It was life-changing for me to just see that. Especially, I don't know how many of you watched it, you still can, but especially Joseph Goldstein, my teacher, who is habitually very reserved, and he's known for his clarity of teaching. He's not known for like being like the warm, lovey-dovey guy. He's a very reserved person, at least in the teacher seat. And the way that he expressed himself that evening, it just blew me away. When there's love between teacher and student, and among students, participants, whatever you want to call yourself, when there is that love, then you can put down roots and feel, oh, this community is a place where I can be relaxed. This community is a place that can be a spiritual home for me. And so no matter what storms and troubles and may be appearing in your life, because they do, you always know that there's a place where you can come and get support. And sometimes it's actually easier to love people in a Sangha or a community than in your own family. Many of you, I think, might experience this. Because in the community, we're all at least allegedly pushing the cart in the same direction. You know, we're all trying to wake up together. We're all trying to learn how to be wise and tender and more compassionate with each other and with ourselves. And then that helps us when we go home or go back to work or wherever we need to go in our life, because we can be more mindful, more present, and that brings more love. And it's not easy to do this practice. I can't remember if it was last week or I've been teaching a bunch this week, so I'm not sure where it was, but maybe it was in the conversation with Duncan that we had on Friday night, which was super fun, about his show, Midnight Gospel, and the Dharma in it. I think you can probably watch that too if you want. I love Duncan. He's a deep and funny and kind of brilliant man, where I was talking about, you know, if you're trying to, let's say you're trying to dig a well, or you're at the beach was the example, and you're trying to reach water. Maybe it was last Sunday, it doesn't matter. But you can't, you know, if you dig a little bit and then you get frustrated because there's no water. So then you try a new hole and you dig a little more, and then you get frustrated because that's not working either. And then you go over here, right? It doesn't work. You have to keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. And inevitably, there will be water. And it's the same with this practice. You keep at it, you keep at it. You know, sometimes it's boring, sometimes it's mechanical, sometimes you don't want to do it at all, many times actually, because there's something you don't want to face and sit down with yourself and look at. And you might not even be aware of that. You might just be, yeah, I don't feel like it today. But we keep at it. And even on the days when we don't do it, you can be mindful as you walk, you can be mindful in everything else that you do, staying as present as possible. And when we do find that water, it's so sweet and it's so clear and it's so pure and it quenches your thirst. It quenches the thirst that we have for love and presence and understanding in our lives, and for recognition, for being seen and for seeing each other. And we discover new ways of being together. And when the difficulties arise, as they are arising, we find we continue this work of transformation. We don't stop. We continue the work of transforming. And if we have difficult people in our life or in our community, we try to help them because we understand, we can see ourselves in them. We can see our suffering. We can see our anger. We can see our annoying habits. We can see ourselves in them. And if we keep trying to help each other, again, those roots will grow deeper and any sense of isolation or loneliness begins to really dissipate. It's definitely harder on Zoom, but it's not impossible. It's really true that we are carrying each other in our hearts, and taking care of our community is really taking care of all of the other refuges in the teachings, in the teacher, in the Dharma itself, in life itself, and the way of life. I wanted to share with you, I want to share a little more with you a quote from another teacher. This is a quote from a Black Zen teacher, a woman named Zenju Ursuline Manuel. And she's talking about, she wrote this actually before George Floyd, before the pandemic even, but it's always relevant. She says, especially for a Dharma teacher, there's an unspoken rule not to feel or express rage. Rage is considered unenlightened. And so in our Dharma communities, as in our daily lives, we often wear masks of politeness. And yet to fully feel what we feel is to be fully human. If we can't be honest about the human condition, then we can't hear the cries of the earth. We can't experience liberation. Rage can be life-giving, illuminating that which must be exposed before humanity can shift into greater interrelationship and love. I too feel rage, but rather than lash out or act out from my pain and anguish, I've learned to use my rage as a fuel toward awakening. And the rage is not personal. It's a response to prolonged mistreatment, coupled with the desire to further the practice of freedom. And then she says something really interesting, and this is what I want to share with you. She's talking about the relative experience of inclusivity, as opposed to, absolute oneness of inclusivity. And so she's saying, the relative experience of inclusivity gets weighed down with the intention to unlearn harmful ways, which leads to trying to fix something. And there's suffering in trying to fix things. Inclusivity does not need fixing. It is something that already exists and has existed from long before where we were born. Everything is already fully included. This is the absolute truth of diversity. Our institutions, Buddhist and otherwise, must create a path of heart that leads to an experience of inclusivity, rather than manufacturing a kind of diversity that comes from the mind or is grounded in various reorganizing techniques and structures. I take my vows within the blackness, not of wounding or oppression, but the great blackness of mystery of the earth and the vastness of what it is to rest in the both and the in-between. And for a beautiful example of this, I want to refer you, Akemi has the link to a movie that I just saw. It's being made available. It's about the Dalai Lama. And what's extraordinary about it is this documentary is that it's him looking back at his life from the age that he is now. He's, I think, about to turn 86 in July. And he's kind of summing up his life, but it's all in his own voice, talking about his childhood, his mother, the loving atmosphere in the palace in Tibet, the Chinese takeover, his escape, the government exile. And it's so, I wept watching it, just the nobility of his ability to transform suffering into wisdom and compassion. So beautiful, so inspiring. And I guess it's some kind of sneak preview, probably to raise funds to keep getting the movie translated into different languages. You don't have to pay, but you kind of have to go past the donate. So you might as well donate something. I mean, it's only available till noon on Monday. So if you want to watch it this afternoon, this evening, or in the morning, because it's really worth it. And yeah, Akemi will post that for you. And I also found it, I found it inspiring in so many ways. But I think the main way is just hearing the way that he reframes some of his experience. And a reframe has to be true for it to work in our psyche. For example, he talks about how the disaster, the tragedy of losing his country and becoming a refugee. He still doesn't have a country or citizenship. He's a guest in India. And he talks about how the tragedy of losing his country helped him take off this heavy ceremonial hat that he had to wear being the Dalai Lama in Tibet, and everything that was expected of him, the reserve that he had to demonstrate in that role, and how it allowed him to travel and see all kinds of different people and, tickle people and joke around with them. And he said his very favorite thing is, just being with people as a regular person, which he almost never gets a chance to do, P.S. But it was very touching to hear him talk about how in his dreams, and he does dream yogas, and so he has, very clear, vivid dreams. He said, in my dreams, I am almost never the Dalai Lama. Makes me cry. I'm just a simple monk. And what appears in our dreams is a snapshot of psychic truth of the moment, something we wish for, afraid of, or whatever. And so that to me was really a very beautiful, beautiful statement. And I could go on and on about it, but I want to leave time for us to have some exchange and get to know each other. You get to know each other. I get to know you better. Unfortunately, we won't have time for everybody, but I want to encourage those of you who'd like to share something or, ask a question, whatever, you can go in the chat function and click, or maybe it's the participant function if you're not me, which I'm one of the co-hosts. Anyway, where's the raise hand function, Kimmy?
It's under participants.
Oh, it's in participants. Okay. Oh, thanks for posting everything. I just looked at the chat. Thank you for posting everything. Akemi is our volunteer coordinator at InsightLA. Oh, and you found the picture of Maitreya, right?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Awesome. You're the best. Thank you.
Of course. Looks like
so anybody have their hand up? You could also just wave, but it's harder for Akemi, who's our moderator this
Yeah,
morning. It's
no
harder
one
for her to
has
find you.
their hand up. Go for it.
Is there somebody?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey Trudy, I mentioned this when we were talking with Duncan on Friday,
Oh yeah,
but
hi, Solomon.
I still need a little guidance on this. Well, I joined this and started practicing Dharma because I'm recovering from a mental illness
Yes,
and like chronic loneliness and anxiety that had me like stuck in my head completely and not in the moment at all for
right.
4 years. And I've been practicing for a while now and coming to these sessions, but sometimes like because of loneliness, it's easy to slip back into your head.
It sure is.
Yeah, and with that comes this feeling of an almost painful awareness of being alive. And how do you get out of your head and find a purpose in a moment when you find yourself sucked back into that? And it feels like the moment itself is painful, not because something bad's happening, but because it's like frustratingly empty. Do you
I
learn to
think,
accept the emptiness? How do you overcome that?
yeah. So the way to overcome it, you might not like this, but I'll tell you the one way to overcome it. I mean, you can practice metta, you can practice loving kindness, but often when you're in that state, it's difficult to access uh, the feeling to expand it. I mean, to even
Mm-hmm.
find it at all can be hard, even to start out. So I just want to say a couple of things. First of all, thank you for your honesty and courage. And
Mm-hmm.
second, I really appreciate that about you. And secondly, you know, when you're in those states, though, which I know is extra scary for you because it led you down that path of,
Yeah.
you know, way too in your head to the point where you got disconnected from reality. So
Mm-hmm.
that makes it scarier. So when you're
Yeah.
in that state, what you do is you actually, this is so counterintuitive and so paradoxical. You don't try to make it go away.
Mm-hmm.
You let yourself feel it, the painfulness of it, the meaninglessness, the
Yeah.
purposelessness. You let yourself feel that. And where do you feel it? Do it for a minute right now. You're probably not feeling that way right now.
Yeah. Not
Just
yet.
evoke it for a minute or for a
Mm-hmm.
second. Okay, so just close your eyes for a moment. Where do you feel it in your body when you get that bad feeling?
It's sort of from the core of my brain.
Okay,
Like nothing else feels real when that happens.
okay, so just for a moment, you're only going to do this for a moment, and I'm here with you, so you're not going to get lost in it.
Mm-hmm.
Just for a moment, go into the core of your brain, and what does it feel like in there? Begin, just describe it out loud to us.
Really, really numb,
Yeah,
and also like almost painfully empty.
yes, it's not
Like
the,
there's nothing there at
yes,
all, and
yes, it's
it's terrifying.
terrifying. So where do you feel the terror in the body?
Just it's like it's both inside and outside, but also like it's hard to describe because it doesn't feel like any of my body is feeling it, but it's all around me.
Sure, sure. No, that's good. So just let it be all around you. Just let it be all around you.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's empty, it's frightening. Does it have any kind of qualities like a color or a size?
It's like static usually and overwhelming. Just it's like a big hole made of static.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let that hole get even bigger for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
You just let it expand
Mm-hmm.
and then let it get even bigger. Let it get giant. And tell me what that's like.
It's a little a little scary, but also because of like the teachings I've learned here, it's kind of a necessary thing to face, I guess.
And when you feel that it's kind of a necessary thing to face, you guess, when you feel like
Mm-hmm.
you're not sure,
Yeah,
but you're taking it on faith.
because there's a little bit of fear still.
Yeah, sure, of course. But when you feel that, like it could be necessary, it might be a good thing, then what do you
Mm-hmm.
feel?
Sort of acceptance. Like
Right.
even though it hurts, like the like feels like a literal hole in life in general.
Yes.
It's sort of like an acceptance of, okay, this is the way things are, and I need to make the most of it.
See if you can say, this is the way that things are right now. Forget about needing to make
Yeah.
the most of it. You don't need to make anything of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just, this is the way things are right now. Just for now.
Mm-hmm.
And just say that to yourself. And as you're wrapping your shawl around yourself, you're holding yourself. You're holding yourself. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what you feel.
A sort of calmness that isn't usually there.
Right. But it's there right now.
Mm-hmm.
And where do you feel that calmness in your body?
All over.
Great. So let that
Like,
calmness.
I feel like usually when I'm in my head, it feels like I'm trapped there. But right now it feels like there's a door open or something,
Exactly.
allowing me to feel the rest of my body.
Great. So feel your body fully, and then let that feeling of calm extend out past the body. Let it get bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Can you?
Yeah.
That's very cool that you can do that. And then see that teeny little smile on your face? Let that smile, let the corners of your mouth turn up, even though you don't feel it, when you're in that hole.
Yeah.
Let the corners of your mouth turn up, pull the shawl around you, and you might not be able to access a felt sense of calm, but you'll remember that it's there. You'll remember that it's there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That helped a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your willingness and your courage. Kemi, do you want to unmute somebody else? Is there anybody else?
I don't see anyone yet. Oh yeah, here, let's go to Sherry. Can you unmute yourself, Sherry?
I hope so. Is that unmuted?
Yeah.
Yep, I can hear you.
Hi, Trudy. I had the privilege of going on a retreat with you and Christiana in the desert a few years back with the Rumpelstiltskin theme. And it was just so beautiful and helpful. It was painful and scary, but it was so good. And I feel a little bit like I've been kind of peeking out from behind the curtain. The fact that there are so many things from InsightLA available online, I tend to watch them, and I think about joining on live, and then I just, I'll watch it later. But today I'm doing it live, and I'm really happy.
I'm so glad you're here. Yay! You actually arrived.
Yes, I watched the birthday celebration too, and I just found it so beautiful and so moving. And watching you weep with sadness, but also joy, and the compassion that you kind of put out into the world is really also something that helps me to realize that that kind of love and compassion is real. It's true. It's not just a thing in my head that someday maybe it could happen.
Exactly. It's not just something you read about. It's not just something the teachings and texts talk about. It's real. And that's called realization.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And we think, oh, realization, that's something out there that other people get to experience, not me. Right? But that's what it is when something becomes real to you. And that's what this practice is for. And that's what Zenju was talking about when she said, we want an experience of inclusivity, not just restructuring ideas that come from the mind about inclusivity, but we want to actually feel also the basis of our life that it's all included. Even the stuff we don't want, like what Solomon was encountering, even those moments of empty, and I don't mean the good emptiness where all your all your problems and thinking fall away for a while. I don't mean that. I mean the emptiness of being lonely and feeling like there's nothing there and you're numb and there's a hole in your heart, that kind of emptiness. That's included too.
Yes. Fear and helplessness and all of those painful things.
Right. And poverty and racism and war and homophobia and transphobia, you know, all those things are included.
Even though sometimes I find myself thinking, well, aren't we more highly evolved as a species than those things? But no.
Sometimes we are, and some of us are.
Yeah. Okay.
But everybody's development is different. And where people start in their practice is different. Like sometimes you can look at somebody who's been practicing for quite a while and judge them and think, well, look at how they're acting. Hasn't done much for them. Once I got a holiday card from my friend Helen Tworkoff, who founded the magazine called Tricycle.
Oh.
And so she sent out this holiday card, and it said on the front, I don't tell my friends I'm a Buddhist. And then you open it up and it says, because they'll think that Buddhism doesn't work.
That's great.
Right. You know, so we might judge somebody, but we don't know where they started. Maybe they were like Angulimala in the text, you know, that who was a serial killer, then became a monk, transformed, changed their life, changed his life. Anyway, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Yes, me too. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything you'd like to bring or share or ask about? Just remember that, you know, whatever question you have is somebody else's question. Like if you look at the chat, you know, Solomon shared a feeling of isolation and loneliness, and then right away, Emily said, your experience is so familiar to me, Solomon, and probably lots of people. And then Wendy chimed in, and then Melissa chimed in, and then Juliet chimed in, and then Laura chimed in. And then suddenly Solomon's not alone anymore. So it's whatever you have to share. It might be something you're ashamed of, but you think it's just you. I guarantee you, it's not just you. I can promise you that.
Chris Johnson, go for it.
Hi, good morning. I just wanted to say just how deeply moved I was by the courage of the last person who asked a question. It's just so unbelievably inspiring and beautiful. My question revolves around an experience I had. I'm just out of a 35-year marriage, a 40-year relationship last year. And I had a really deep, intimate relationship with a woman that I met on a dating app who saw the good in me like I had never felt before. I've been someone who serves the world in every capacity and volunteered way too much and had narcissists in my life and just took on everything I possibly could because I was raised to get my feeling of self-love by serving others, by always helping others, because that's kind of my role in my parents' life and my mom's life. She was handicapped and she was always happy when I served her, so I just did it for my entire life. Sure. So last year I got to see the good in me through the eyes of someone else who didn't know, let's say, that I was a music producer or what all the stuff that I do. She didn't know any of that. She just knew me. So I was able to see myself through her eyes in a way that I had never seen myself before. And I've only been in one relationship. So we've kind of drifted apart. And over the last 6 months, we weren't really sure what we were doing. And the other night, I just called her up and I said, listen, you know, what's up with this? And we really just decided to amicably, you know, not be involved romantically. And this year has been unbelievably hard for me because I got my own self-worth and self-love through the vision that she had for me. Over the last few days, I've been crying like crazy, not because I miss her, but because I am now able to see the good in me in a way that I never have in my life. It's the most profound feeling of radical self-love that I've been chasing it like crazy. I'm an Al-Anon in therapy and all the rest of it. and I'm a lifetime journaler and have done a lot of the work. But this feeling I've had the last few days of radical self-love, I've never had this before. And it was, I
That
just
makes
kind of,
me cry too, Chris.
and
That's beautiful.
yeah,
Thank you.
and I'm 61, and I've served so many, you know, over the years.
Your
And
turn, Chris.
yeah, I've been crying all morning, but tears of absolute extraordinary joy. But my question to you, Trudy, is, you know, I don't know if this is going to be fleeting, but I really feel like I've touched the third rail, the true meaning of life and happiness and joy and presence. And I'm someone who just, you know, practices being right here, right now, and I do the work. But this is something I've never felt. And it's so unbelievably beautiful and profound. It's just, it's hard for me to put into words and for the purpose of this chat. But what I really want to do is I want to make sure that I can stay tapped into this and any tools or methodologies or thought process. And I am meditating and I'm doing the loving kindness meditation. In fact, I wrote down word for word the one that you did a few weeks ago, and it's been really profoundly beautiful for me. And I do it even with like a little bit of music in the background to kind of enhance power.
That's great. That's great.
So, but if you can recommend anything that I can do, and anything any of us can do in this time where every second is filled with this and nervousness and energy and trying to pay bills and kids and media and social media, it's just so hard to connect with yourself. So I stripped everything away, all the narcissists, the volunteering, all that stuff. And I was left with me, and boy, did it hurt, that separation from myself. Now that it's back, now that I have it for the first time, I should say, anything you can give me, anything you can say, or anything I can practice to try and maintain this and even grow it would be highly appreciated. Thank you for everything you do.
Well, thank you for that. You have lots of insight about yourself. It's clear how much work you've done on, you know, yourself. And I'm so happy for you. When you were sharing about this was the first time in your life, I literally felt like crying also, because this is our birthright, Chris, and this is who you most deeply are. And these experiences of truth and beauty, and this is the truth of who you are. These experiences of joy and gratitude. You didn't name gratitude, but I'm hearing so much gratitude in you. And this is the water that you get when you keep digging and you don't give up. And it's beautiful because your friendship or the affair, whatever relationship that you had with that woman who came into your life and could see the beauty in you was like a bridge for you to be able to access that in yourself. Like it had never really occurred to you, you know.
That's right.
And that bridge of relationship, it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, but just somebody who sees you. And because the wounds that the hurts that we have from our relationships early in life, they can't really be healed just by sitting on the cushion all by yourself. We need each other. We need to have some friendships. We need to have or a therapist or, you know, or 12-step group or whatever it is where people can reflect and mirror each other. That's why we need Sangha and community, because we don't see it all by ourselves. We need each other. That's why the birthday was so important for me, just being, oh my gosh, being seen in that way. And by the way, if people want to watch it and you haven't, it's not just a bunch of teachers wishing me happy birthday. That would be really boring. It was the actual day of George Floyd's funeral. And the teachers that I invited, all my old friends, I asked them to give some teaching and something to support everybody during this time. So you get, you get teaching in that too. So in terms of how to make this last, well, we know everything is impermanent, but the good news is because this is your true nature, this is the water that you will come back to, even during the moments when you lose sight of it, because they will come. Because nothing stays forever, and you know that, and that's why you're scared and you're saying, give me some techniques so I can hang on to this, because you know you can't hang on, right? You can't. Yeah. But at the same time, what you can do is remember, like with Solomon, he can't hang on to the feeling of calm. He'll find himself in the hole sometimes again, hopefully less and less and less as he persists in his practice. It will be less and less, I guarantee you. Because you begin to awaken more and more to the sanity and goodness and calm and beauty of who we most deeply are. So just trusting that whatever practice you do is on that ground, is on that foundation. And I think the best thing that I can remind you about is that the times when you forget, the times when you're back in it, where you don't want to be, that forgetting and those times are actually like a cue, like a mindfulness bell to remember, oh, wow, okay, I just got lost in my old pattern. How could I not? I did it for 40 plus years or 60 years or however long.
Yeah.
You know, it was bred into me by helping my mom and being a kind son and all the things you did. But you're living proof that just being a good person and serving is not enough in this life. You know, we need to also turn around and serve ourselves as well.
It's profound. It's so profound.
Yeah. And so I think what Solomon said is true. It's the beginning of a wonderful new chapter in your life. And sure, you'll get bummed out again. You'll forget, but you're not going to forget the same way because you've tasted this truth now.
Yeah.
And you'll discover it becomes more, there's like a figure ground shift that happens in the practice. And where this might be like brief moments of self-love or brief moments of calm instead of being frightened, it just shifts and the calm becomes really the more steady state. And there's brief moments of fear and brief moments of loneliness and brief moments of self-hate and, you know, the other things that have tormented us. So, yeah. So I just thank you.
No, thank you.
Story.
And thank you for this Sunday group.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Anybody else? If not, we'll just sit together for a few minutes before we close. I kind of want to hear from Clark and Robert how your son is doing. Do you mind telling me?
It's so funny you say that. Trudy, we're at a little bit of a crossroads, and I was sitting here thinking, do I bother to share and jump in? It's just a moment in life with a parent where our 20-year-old son has gone through 9-10 months of rehab, and he was in sober living, and once, which is a step looser, a step more on his own to see it.
Yeah.
And we did it in January, and he slipped twice in sober living, and we said, nope, you got to go back, which he was willing to do, which is great, into rehab again. And then this week he started again in sober living, and last night he went out and slipped all over again. And so we're at finally that point where you know, the pain of saying, how do I shift my relationship with my child that I love so deeply? And how do I trust the universe that he's gonna find his way, but it's gotta be his way on his terms. And I can't do it for him as a parent, and nobody can. But it looks like I'm just taking my hands off the support of him and saying, I guess you're going to crash and burn because that's what you need to do. And so we're just at that moment where it looks like in the next day or two, he's just coming off of hallucinating and drugs. So we'll give him a couple days, and then we'll just kind of say, this chapter's over. We're not supporting you anymore, or this anymore. We have, you know, a couple directions you can follow, but it's up to you. And I would have been falling completely apart if we had not been sitting in meditation every week with Beth, every day of the week with Beth, and with you on the weekends, and with Al-Anon, which we're doing. And Robert and I are in amazingly different places than we would be otherwise, but it is painful.
Oh, so painful. And I'm so sorry to hear this. It's really painful. I'm so glad that you have, I hope, an Al-Anon group with lots of recovery in it. And for everybody, you should know that Beth Sternlieb is offering a meditation every weekday morning. Is it 7:30? What time is it?
Yeah, 7:30.
Tammy, you can put a link for that. Yeah, I want to offer that just to you all as a resource, that it's much easier to sit with others than by yourself for most, not for everybody, but for most people. So do that. And wow, this is a terrifying crossroads that you're in. And I just want to say something that I say it with a little trepidation but I feel like you know me well enough that I can say it to you, which is that there really is wisdom in our life. There really is wisdom that wants our awakening and transformation. And I have to have the humility to accept that I don't really know what that is supposed to look like. I have such strong ideas about, for example, InsightLA, that's my current child, and what needs to happen. And I'm not in control. I'm not in charge. I have willingly stepped back from that, actually a couple of years ago, but especially recently with my birthday. Because with my birthday, I've had insight. It's like a little microchip of Chris's insight that actually I need to have a little more time for me to sit and practice in the way that I used to. Because as I said, I'm really more of a practitioner than a teacher and a student, because I just love these practices and the Dharma so much. Anyway, I feel like that trust, that it's so hard to let go and trust that somebody's path is meant to be their path when it doesn't look right at all. I wish I would teach what Ram Dass would teach, but I'll share with you what he would teach. And he would say, it's not my teaching, but he would say, what's your son's name?
Spencer.
Yeah, he would say, Spencer chose this birth. Spencer chose this life. Spencer has something to learn and do here that he's doing. And it might have to do with forcing you to deepen your practice. Who knows? And that's kind of called comfort. It's not meant to make the pain go away, but it's just, we have to look from different angles than tragedy. And also watch the Dalai Lama movie, because there's somebody who also suffered a lot of tragedy. And I'm not saying, I just think, just watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Spencer is learning. I mean, it feels like he's still learning. And to watch him stumble and fall in the mud again and again is such a odd experience, because you just want to say, please, don't you see you're just stumbling in the mud again and again? And he's finding his own way there. I mean, he told us once, like, well, the reason I do drugs is because I'm in control of that. I'm not in control of anything else in my life, but I'm in control when I go and do drugs. Then I get to be what I control. And he's learning something about that. I don't know what it is, but it's okay.
Yeah. How old is he again?
20
now?
years old. 20.
Yeah. Thank goodness he's still young. And I also want you to look at the chat and read it before we say goodbye today. And thank you. I am really glad I asked you and that you shared this with everybody. Thank you.
I'm glad you did too. Thank you.
So now what I would like to do is just sit for a minute together, and then we will unmute everybody. And you're getting support in the chat. So while we sit, maybe you can also read the chat and offer our dedication and gratitude for this time together. I don't know what happened to the bell, but so I'm just gonna have to thank you. Would you ring it once? We'll sit together. One more time, Robert. Thank you. So always at the end of a time of study and practice together, we offer the goodness of our practice to all beings everywhere without exception. And we do this as an act of imagination, like from the heart, just expressing the gratitude that we feel for having the opportunity, the blessing, the privilege, the luxury to have this kind of time and encounter the teachings and practice together. So we just radiate from our hearts. We offer freely to everyone, all beings, all creatures, to the world, to the planet, to the earth. May all beings have what they need in this life: respect and recognition and nourishment and love. Robert, will you ring the bell again, please? Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Now, Akemi will oh, do you have any announcements, Akemi?
I have one. So this Tuesday, there's going to be a really, really amazing workshop, Introduction to Decolonizing Nonviolent Communication. It's an amazing, if you're not familiar with NVC, it's an amazing framework for working with conflict in your life, which is so relevant to so many of us right now. I put the link to register in the chat. The deadline to sign up is 5 p.m. today, so please check it out.
Thank you, Akemi. Will you unmute everybody so we can say hi and goodbye? And I'll see you next week. Look forward to seeing you next week, everyone. Thank you for coming and for your practice.
Thank you, Trudy.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Corky. Love you,
Bye-bye.
Corky. And Roberto.
Thank you.
Thank
Trudy.
you. Bye-bye. Have a good week.
Thank
You
you.
too, Pam.
Thank you, Solomon.
Aw.
Thank you, Songa. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank you so much, Trudy. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Trudy. That was
Bye.
really-
Bye, everybody.
Really wonderful session. A privilege and an honor to be here today.
Thank you, Bernard.
Yeah, it was really great. Very touching.
Thank you.
Yeah. Two people bared their souls.
Yes. And how much we all learn together when people have the courage to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's really beautiful.
I lost my own country.
Thank you. Thank you for the music.
See, this is not just my life story.